We all want to feel peace in our lives. Peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Hey everyone, welcome back to Paring Down. So this is actually not my official introduction because I already did one of those. And then I listened back because it was like my whole debut to my new beautiful studio set and new microphone. And I just wasn't super happy with the sound after listening to it back. And so I just wanted to come on and be like, listen, we did our best. With any sort of change, there's going to be iterations. So sorry if my sound doesn't sound as beautiful as it usually does. I mean, it's not horrible. I wouldn't post this episode if it was like unlistenable to, but I just wanted to let you guys know that we're working on the sound on the back end of things. Okay. But we were really excited about the new set, which really only matters to those of you who watch on YouTube. But anyway, I know most of you celebrate all the little things alongside me, which I appreciate so much. So let's just pretend that this intro didn't really happen, but I just wanted you guys to be aware that we're working on the sound. And then I'm going to cut to my other intro that I already did, and we'll carry forth as usual. Okay? Deal. Here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to Paring Down. Look at my beautiful new studio, which most of you will not see because you listen to this podcast like a podcast. But for those of you who are watching on YouTube or who see little clips of this on the interwebs, I'm in a new studio, which is still the same corner of my bedroom I've always been in, but we just made it look a lot prettier. We got some wallpaper up, and I'm just really excited about this next iteration of the Paring Down podcast. I don't invest in myself very easily or very well. I'm always kind of like, let's get by doing the least amount possible. Like, I'm going to put hard work into the content, but I'm just not a bells and whistles kind of gal because I'm a meat and potatoes kind of gal. But at some point, it is fun and important to continue making the podcast the absolute best it can be. And we felt like it was time for a little makeover. And so I'm so excited. There's all these different cameras and lights all around me, and our bedroom is a very exciting place at the moment. Big shout out to my husband, who is my light and sound engineer, who put all of this together. Even though, if you saw on Instagram, his hoodie, that drives me nuts, found its way into the studio, guys. But you know what? That's very forgivable when he is doing as much as he's doing for my career. So anyway, thank you, Aaron. I also want to say thank you to all of you who follow along everywhere. I just hit 100,000 followers on Facebook this week, which is super wild. And as this platform continues to grow and you guys continue to trust me, help you pare down without being judgy and being realistic and getting to the heart of things, like, I just want you to know that you will always remain my priority. I hope that you never feel like you can't reach out to me because more and more people are following me or more people are listening. Like, I am same old weirdo me who started recording this podcast in her closet back in Florida that I am right now. So that sounds obvious, but sometimes I feel like that needs to be said, especially as creators, they get bigger and you wonder like, oh, is this changing them, or can I still reach out to them? Please do. I love hearing from all of you. In fact, so much that today's episode is another listener requested episode, just like the last solo episode that I did. And today we're going to be talking about how to keep kid clothing from getting out of hand. This person I know is not alone because I've been there too, where you feel like no matter what you do, your kids' closets just keep exploding all over the place and they're so cluttered because kids grow so fast. So it's a really difficult thing to keep on top of. So that's what we're talking about today. But if you don't have kids, I'm still so glad that you're here. And I'm sure you can still glean helpful decluttering advice from this episode, because no matter what we're decluttering, whether it's kid stuff or our own stuff, so many of the same principles apply. Okay, so let's get into this. Kids' closets often store things besides just clothing. I think that's where things get a little out of hand, and that's totally okay. But you can still make sure that your closets don't become these dark holes of kids' stuff everywhere if we get the right systems in place, which is what we're going to talk about today. Because listen, kids grow and change. That's normal development. Their sizes to change, obviously, of clothing, but also their interests, all of that stuff. So we don't want the revolving door of clutter. But when it comes to kids stuff, we do have a little bit more of a revolving door, which is totally normal. So how we approach their stuff and their closets is going to be different than how we approach ours. I've already mentioned a couple of the reasons why kids accumulate things so quickly, and it's so hard to keep kid closets under control. But the first is that they grow quickly. So that constant size change means they're constantly getting new clothes. They get gifts a lot, right? From friends and family, especially, those grandparents who love to shop for them. And it's a source of generosity. And I'm actually having an episode of the podcast in a couple of weeks from now, which I think you'll love, with someone who specializes in grandparent relationships. And she's going to be talking about how we can handle that incoming overwhelm of gifts, especially during the holiday season, while still respecting and loving those grandparents. So that's to come. I'm excited about that episode. But yeah, so gifts from family and friends is part of why we accumulate so much kid clothing. We also have hand-me-downs from relatives, neighbors, that kind of thing, or even other siblings. We also hang on to kid items for sentimental reasons, right? Like this was their first birthday outfit, or this is what I brought them home from the hospital in. Or my daughter, she had this little orange dress with flowers on it that she just wore nonstop. Weirdly enough, my daughter has 2 orange dresses with flowers that she wore nonstop. So one from when she was a toddler, and one now that still fits her. And I'm like, weird that the 2 dresses in her sentimental bin for me are going to be orange dresses with flowers. But you know what? She has her thing, right? So anyways, we have those sentimental outfits that mean a lot to us. We also have a fear of not having enough because of growth spurts or different seasons and events we take the kids to. We want to make sure that they have appropriate attire for wherever they go. And of course, busy schedules, right? It's easier to keep adding clothes to an environment, to a closet, than it is to stop, pause, and take things out. And that is especially hard, I think, for parents because we tend to be very busy with kids. So that's a bunch of the reasons why it's hard to keep the kid stuff from exploding. So I want you to know, I get it. You're completely normal. So today we're going to talk about 7 strategies to help you stay ahead of the kid clothing chaos so that drawers can actually close, laundry feels manageable, and you don't spend your weekends just sorting through piles of outgrown stuff. Oh, and before I get into all of these strategies, I did want to say that organizing and keeping your closet from being completely cluttered, while they go hand in hand, decluttering and being aware of the amount we have is really what the focus of today's podcast episode is going to be about, because organization is going to look different in everyone's closet because all of our closets look different. And I think most of us know that we generally keep shirts in one drawer, pants in another drawer, sweatshirts in another drawer. You hang things like, if you're hanging dresses, you got long sleeve dresses and short sleeve dresses, right? All of that is good and well. And you don't need to worry so much about the organization piece when you have the decluttering, non-chaotic piece in place, which is why I'm going to focus on that. However, I did want to give you guys a tip. And that is to use drawer dividers for kid clothing specifically because their clothes are a lot smaller and because kids are a lot crazier when they get stuff out of their drawers. So I found these really great kind of shoebox size organizers. They're not just dividers in the sense that they're not just one piece of long wood or something that I put in the drawer. They're actual little containers that fit into the drawer, about the size of a shoebox. It fits 3 across in your average dresser drawer. And so, for instance, in their socks and undies drawer, I have one of those shoebox bins with undies, one with socks, another with pajamas. Or in another drawer, I have one with swimsuit and dance stuff, one with shorts, one with t-shirts, right? So it just helps keep things in order. They're harder to use the bigger your kids get because their clothes are bigger. So they don't fit as nicely into these little shoe boxes. But I would say for ages 0 to 6, I find those organizers super helpful. And so I will link those in the show notes. And another organizing hack that I have found to be very helpful is if you don't have space to keep shoes in like a downstairs, coat closet. That's kind of where we keep our shoes, which I'll link our shoe organizer for that downstairs too. But you can get those hanging organizers for closets that have different compartments and just put shoes in there. And then those can just hang in their closet and they can grab their shoes out and easily put them back, kind of like a hanging cubby situation. I have found those to be super helpful. I know sometimes people use those as well for picking out clothes at the beginning of the week so that every morning before school isn't this nightmare of trying to figure out what they're going to wear and ruining their dressers. They put Monday outfit in one slot, then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday down that hanging cubby hole situation, which I think is a really cool idea. I haven't implemented that in my own family. I find that their drawers and them getting themselves dressed, and then I'm talking mostly about my 5 and 7-year-old here, isn't so bad when they have really decluttered dresser drawers, which we'll talk about. It makes it easy for them to get dressed and the drawers never get chaotic. I mean, like slightly chaotic, right? Like everything doesn't stay perfectly folded, but nothing gets wrinkled and shoved in and anything like that. So anywho, that's my note on organization. So I'll have those organizers in the show notes. But let's get into the really key strategies for making sure that kids' clothing doesn't take over your life. All right, strategy number 1. This one is super practical and it's one that I use every day, basically. Well, sometimes every day, but it's a 3-bin system. So you want to have a 2 small bin, a 2 big bin, and an incoming bin. And I'll share what each of those means. So this is a preparation piece, right? You're setting up a system that's already in place by the time you want to declutter stuff. So get those bins, whether I use those cloth, little 12 by 12 cubicles. You can use whatever little bin that you have. You can use cardboard boxes. This doesn't have to be fancy. It's in a closet. No one's going to see it but you. Okay. But you want to have 3 bins. And the point of these 3 different bins is that everything that is inside the drawers or hanging in the kids' closet fits them right now. That is key. You want to move anything that is too small out. I mean, I do this as I notice that it's happening. Like I'm folding laundry and I'm like, oh, this skirt was a little bit short, or, oh, these leggings are too tight and small, right? And so I don't put them back into rotation. I immediately will take them either to the donation bin that we have, a running donation bin in our house, or if I notice it as I'm putting them away, I put it in that bin that's inside her closet or inside his closet. I have 2 boys and 1 girl, and I just throw them in there. So I don't have to go downstairs to the donation bin. I don't have to make a whole nother thing of it. It's just right there waiting for me. These are too small. I'll deal with it later. Then when that too small bin is full, that is when I manage it, whether it's too small for my oldest. And so then I'm going to go sort through those and put it into the hand-me-down bins for my youngest, the boys, right? Or for my daughter, if it's full, that's when I take it out. I go through it and I put some in a bag for a friend for church, who has a daughter younger than me, or I take it and put it in the donation bin and take that to Goodwill, right? But I just wait for the box to fill up. We don't have to do everything as it happens, which it sounds nice to do that in theory, so nothing builds up, but that's just not real life, especially with kids. So go ahead and have that too small bin that you just toss it in. Okay, this is one that I feel like most parents don't do, but you also need to have a too big bin. Okay, this is for clothes. If you're like me, you buy them for your kid, they're a little too big. And you're like, oh, well, they'll grow into them. I'm not going to get rid of it, right? When something's too small, immediately you return it. When it's too big, if you're me, you hold on to it because it's going to fit them in 6 months or a year from now. The problem is that then those clothes take over and are part of the chaos. So I also now have a too big bin. This is also good for hand-me-downs. When people give you hand-me-downs and your kids haven't grown into them yet, you can put them in your too big bin. So it is set aside for later. And so when your kid does start to grow again and you're like, oh, let's see what we got going on our too big bin, right? You're there, you're prepared, and those clothes haven't been leaking into the prime real estate in the rest of the kid closet. And then next is your incoming bin. This is a little different than like a too big bin. This is, I haven't been able to sort through it yet. So we're talking about true hand-me-downs that you haven't looked through yet. You haven't figured out that they're too big. It's just someone hands you a bag of clothes and says, hey, I'd love to give these to your kids. Or, grandparents just bought them a new dress or whatever it is. Anything that needs to be sorted and you don't have time to do that right now, go ahead and put it in your incoming bin. Now, of course, we want to go through our incoming bin regularly so we don't miss the opportunity for our kids to wear it if it does fit them right now. But again, we don't want piles and bags of random clothes or whatever sitting around the closet or stuffed in, and you don't even know if it fits or not. So we do want to be really mindful before you put anything into your prime real estate, into those drawers or onto the hangers, that you know that it fits them right now. So an incoming bin is just really helpful. I find that my incoming bin is usually empty, but it is still helpful to have there because on those occasions when people do give us stuff, or I do come home somehow, whatever, with gifts, I don't know. I keep going back to gifts. I can't, with incoming, I think it is mostly just gifted stuff that I haven't had time to sort through yet. Or maybe clothes I haven't had time for them to try on that I got for them, right? And I need them to try them on before I'm going to take off any tags or anything like that. Incoming bin, and then go through that, obviously, before putting away into your prime real estate. So that's the 3-bin system. You got a too small, too big, and incoming. And I just keep those. Usually most closets have a built-in shelf like along the top. And those are just 3 bins that I keep up there next to things like puzzles. And then usually their sentimental bin is up there as well. And whatever else you need to keep up in a kid's closet, like the stencil that you trace stars onto their ceiling. It is so funny, the things that end up in kids' closets. You're like, man, life is fun with kids, but there's also just a lot of random stuff. And that's why you're listening, because we got to declutter. Okay, so that's a good point. As I'm going through these, please note that some of these are about maintaining a decluttered system, like a decluttered closet, and some of them are about the act of decluttering it as a whole. I make note of those 2 things because they are different. Maintaining a decluttered space is different than decluttering kid stuff. And if you really want to do a dive into decluttering kid stuff to begin with, so you can kind of have a blank slate to do this maintenance from, listen to that sentimental items episode. That's episode 5 of the podcast. I also have an episode called Strategies for Getting Kids to Declutter Their Stuff. So I'll have those linked in the show notes. Those are really good for helping you actually get the clothes out if you struggle with that. A lot of what we're talking about today is about maintaining it so that it doesn't build up, because that was what the person who asked for this episode was struggling with. And I think that's what a lot of us struggle with. But obviously some of the things I talk about will include decluttering itself today as we go through. Okay. So strategy number 1 was the 3-bin. Strategy number 2 is set a clothing limit. All right. So for example, you might say 7 everyday outfits for kids and a few extra special occasion outfits, right? You kind of put a number to it. You guys know I love physical boundaries. So you can use hangers as a physical boundary and say, okay, when my daughter doesn't have any of these hangers left, then I cannot buy her a new dress. Or if I do, I need to let another one go. And then you'll feel like that's kind of wasteful. And so you'll notice your consumption really slow down. So you can do the physical boundary, or you can do a numerical boundary. So when it comes to choosing a numerical boundary to set a limit of how much you're going to keep in terms of what fits them right now, do what is realistic based on your laundry habits. This is huge, because if you only do laundry, once every 2 weeks, then you're going to need more clothes than someone like me who does laundry every 3-ish days. Well, I do it kind of every other day. I won't get into my laundry routine again. For all of you who come back and listen, you're like, Shannon, stop talking about your laundry routine. It comes up a lot because clothes are annoying, but the more often you do laundry, the less clothes you need, right? Because you just need to cover everybody's heinies for 4 days instead of 14 days. So I'm not telling you you have to do it like me. It might make sense for you to do laundry every 2 weeks. In that case, though, you're going to need more clothing, but you can still have too much. There's plenty of people who do laundry every 2 weeks, but still have way too many clothes that they could get themselves through 3 months covering their heinies. Maybe not with undies, but with other clothes too, right? So think about your laundry routine. For me, because we do laundry every 3 to 4 days, I aim for the kids to have about 5 to 6 t-shirts, because of course they spill, they get dirty, they might need to wear more than one a day. So I do almost double t-shirts, and then same for long sleeve tees, right? So let's say they each have 6 t-shirts, 6 long sleeve. And then for shorts and pants, they don't get dirty as often. So I aim for 4 to 5 by doing laundry every 3 to 4 days. So 4 to 5 shorts, 4 to 5 pants. Okay. So we'll go on the upper end of things and say I have 5 shorts for each kid, 5 pants for each kid. So that's 10 bottoms, and then 6 and 6 on the top. So that's 12 tops. And that's for winter and summer, right? That's short sleeve and long sleeve. That's casual clothing. I'm not talking about special occasion clothing. This is what they wear to school. And this is why I don't have to do a clothing rotation. I don't seasonally keep stuff under their bed or whatever, because their closets or their drawers can easily handle 12 shirts and 10 pairs of pants, right? That's pretty simple. In fact, I'm really grateful for that because I just moved my two oldest kids in. My 5 and my 7-year-old are sharing a room for 2 months because our babysitter is coming to live with us. Oh, I haven't told you about this. Our babysitter from Florida is going to come live with us for 2 months. We are so excited. And having a decluttered home has made that possible because we have plenty of space. We can move her right into my daughter's room, move my daughter into my oldest's room, and combine their stuff. And she now has 4 empty drawers that are for her for 2 months, and there's nothing hanging in the closet. So all the hanging space. And then now in my son's room, we kind of combine their stuff. And so he has 3 drawers of the dresser. My daughter has 3 drawers of the dresser, and it's plenty. It's plenty of space. The drawers are a little bit more full than I usually keep them. Usually their kids' drawers are very sparse, but they're a little full, but everything fits perfectly fine. So this is just another way that living with less inspires generosity, which was a whole episode I will link in the show notes too, is one of my favorites. But the ultralight backpacker, Glenn Van Pesky, he and I are still like pen pals and email all the time, but he did that episode about take less. Oh, his book, if you're watching, is on my shelf. Take less, do more. It's the one right at the front there about how we can be more generous. And anyways, that's really shown up in our lives this week. But back to the clothing. Yeah. So however often you do laundry, I would aim for like 150% more clothes, to 200%, like 1.5 to 2 times the amount. So if you do laundry once a week, 7 days a week, I would aim for 10 or 11 shirts, and maybe 6 or 7 shorts or pants or whatever it is. So that's a good way to set a clothing limit. And then remember with this clothing limit, when new items come in and you are already at capacity, then something else has to go out. And again, that's going to help keep everything in order and change your consumption habits. We're going to talk about consumption a little bit more in a different point, because obviously that is a huge piece of the puzzle here. But that clothing limit will require a change in how you shop. Strategy number 3, rotate and assess seasonally. So at the start of each new season, go through and assess everything you have. So you're looking what fits now, what is stained, what is worn out, what just my kids don't really like to wear, and then where do we need to fill in the gaps? Because you don't want to just, it's a new season, and you walk into the store and they have all these cute seasonal clothing out, and you're like, oh, that's going to look so cute on her. That's going to look so good on him. Oh my gosh, look at that sweatshirt. And you get back home and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I already had like a blue zip up that still fits him. Or gosh, I guess she didn't really need another long sleeve dress. We have plenty, right? You need to assess going into each season because your kids haven't worn their winter clothes all summer. And so you don't really know what you have, even if it's hanging there or if it's in a drawer, you just need to assess. So before you buy anything for a new season, please make sure you go in and see what you already have, because I've done this too. I'm like, oh, I don't think he has a zip up. I don't think that. And I come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, he already had a gray zip up, and then I have to return it, or if the kids ripped the tags off of it, now I've been wasteful, or even if it's really cute, it just starts to add up too much. And then my daughter has too many long sleeve dresses, and they're all very, very cute, but it's like, this just so unnecessary, and it clutters up the closet and it's stressful, right? So be aware of the gaps, and then you're going to shop into the gaps. But again, we're going to talk about that consumption piece in a little bit. Right now, we're talking about rotating and assessing seasonally. Like I mentioned, I don't store off-season clothing separately because each of my kids usually has their own dresser, and there's just plenty of room for their clothes, minus like snowsuits. However, when I did move them in together, like I was just talking about, there were some seasonal things that I didn't put in because they only have 3 drawers each. And, my daughter has a couple of hanging dresses, so there's not a bunch of hanging clothes, but in their drawers, I did kind of weed a couple things out. So they don't need shorts because we're entering winter here in Alaska. So they won't be needing shorts. They both probably have 2 more sweatshirts than they really need. I weeded those out. Their Christmas pajamas, which I usually keep with everything. I don't keep all their seasonal stuff separate because I don't need to. But for this case, I did. And I put them all in a kind of big, my guess would be 18 by 18 inch storage cube. And I just lumped it all in there. And part of me was like, oh, is that just clothes I need to declutter? And it's like, no, some of that truly is seasonal stuff that I think will fit them still in the spring. Some of it is, I'm like, well, that's their least favorite hoodie. So I probably could declutter that, but I wasn't entirely ready to let it go. But yeah, so I just did a little bin. If you need to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't have enough space to be able to keep your drawers very accessible and manageable for your kids in their everyday life, take out some of that seasonal clothing that doesn't fit right now. Again, I encourage this only if you have a limited amount of space. If you have a full dresser for your child and a full like hanging bar in your closet or more, like a walk-in closet or whatever, then I would really challenge yourself to not store things seasonally because you probably just really need to declutter. But if you have a very small amount of space, of course, there's nothing wrong with storing things away a little bit seasonally. And so for me, it's just a little cube in the side of the closet. I prefer that than things with lids and sliding them under beds because those are just harder for us to check in on and they feel like more work to kind of go dig out versus a cube. You can kind of like, oh yeah, I can kind of weed my way through there with my little fingers and see that, oh yeah, he's got like 5 pairs of shorts, right? It doesn't feel as heavy as a lift, but you can do it however you want to do it. The point is to assess what they have seasonally. And that includes, of course, going through their hand-me-down bins, anything like that before you go shopping. Strategy number 4, actively handle those hand-me-downs for younger siblings. This won't apply to everyone, of course, and it touches on something I just mentioned, but it deserves its own point because this is a huge strategy when it comes to keeping the kids' clothing from becoming chaotic. Hey guys, it's time for your ad break. Each week I like to say a huge thank you for your graciousness that these are part of the podcast. Here we go. You guys know the reason I love living in Alaska is because of how much we can get outside. But did you know that Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors? That's wild. And did you know that indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air? The air gets stale. We have chemicals from when we're cooking. There might be contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, all of that. And my husband's sneezing fits have completely stopped. I'm not even kidding. I'm not making this up just to try and sell you something, but they have actually stopped since we started using our air doctor. This is an award-winning air purifier that eliminates 99.99% of all those dangerous contaminants I just named. I know a lot of my friends are looking into getting air purifiers, and it's always hard to make a choice as to which one. So I want you to know that Air Doctor was voted best air purifier by Newsweek. So it's really no surprise that 98% of Air Doctor customers agree that their home's air feels cleaner, safer, and healthier. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code PAIRING, PARING. Remember, there's no I in pair, to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, plus a 3-year warranty, an $84 value, free. So get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com, airdoctorpro.com, and use promo code PAIRING, PARING. When it comes to hand-me-downs, first of all, only keep the best quality items, the ones you actually really want to see your next child wear, because odds are your first child, the one where you accumulated all these clothes to begin with, you probably have more than you need because you were a first-time parent. And so you don't realize how much things are going to add up and how much is just superfluous, right? I think when you're just a first-time parent, you just do more, God bless those third children, when you do way less in every aspect. But so you were probably a first-time parent. And so you got more clothes than you needed. People gave you tons of gifts and clothing for your first kid. And this is probably pre-decluttering, right? This is before you decided you wanted to live a more pared down life. So you don't need to hold on to all of it. Just because your first child had all of it does not mean your second or third or whoever else needs all of it, right? Only keep what fits your personal values and lifestyle right now, which is probably more decluttered than it was before. So only keep your favorites. And also keep in mind that you are likely to inherit or buy more clothing for your younger child too. So it's not like you're not going to respect the fact that your third child is obsessed with fire trucks and maybe his big brother wasn't. That's the case in our house. I'm going to get him a fire truck t-shirt because that brings him so much joy. And that's like the only t-shirt he wears, that and his excavator shirt. My youngest son was into space and rocket ships, right? Like his shirts were a little different, and it's not about being wasteful. But for me, I'm like, I'm going to buy 1 or 2 t-shirts specifically for my third child. So again, if you get rid of some hand-me-downs, don't feel like those are the only thing that your youngest has to wear. And again, I know not everyone has the money or the ability to buy one or two shirts, new shirts per kid, per size or whatever. And I totally respect that. So if you feel like you do need to hold on to more hand-me-downs, just remember to try and keep that clothing limit number in mind, right? Like, okay, I do laundry every once a week. I don't need to keep more than 10 t-shirts in this size. And usually you will find that you have more than that. In terms of storing those hand-me-downs, I do them labeled by size on the outside I literally just have a little note card that I tape with Scotch tape on the outside. I'm not fancy. I don't have a fancy label maker or anything. And I just say 4T or whatever. And I try and keep it one small bin. I don't have deep bins because deep bins they're too many clothing. They're, I think, like 8 inches tall. And I keep one of those per size. And my boys are only 3.5 years apart. So it's usually 3 to 4 bins, depending on where we are and how anyways, you know how it is. It's weird. It's like sometimes things fit at a certain season or whatever. And that complicates things too, right? Because like what fit your kid, if they don't have the same birthday in the same time of year, then his winter clothes as 3T are going to be a little bit small. And my youngest one, by the time he gets to winter, sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you want it to, which is another reason not to keep all of it because you just don't know if it's going to fit or not. So just keep the bare minimum of what will work. But yeah, so I keep 3 to 4 bins total, and that's with a 3.5 year age gap. If you have a smaller age gap, like a 2-year age gap, you should theoretically be able to do this with only about 2 bins, maybe more than that if you have to have a higher number. Like I said, I respect that everyone operates differently, but you don't need to keep everything so that you have these big giant totes of all these clothing. And you want to make sure that they are separated by size because you're not every single season, right? Like every summer and every winter of every year, because they change sizes every year, you're not going to want to go through these giant bins and pull out and trying to see what size everything is. Oh my gosh, who has time for that? So make sure that you have them clearly labeled. You know what's in them. I even kind of write like swimsuit, pajamas, jeans, zip ups, hats, gloves, right? Like I write that stuff on there so that I don't go, I wonder if he has something like that in his 4T bin. I know, he already has a swimsuit. Like, I wonder if I held on to that, right? We do that. And then we're like, well, it's easier to just buy this because it's cute right here instead of being able to easily know, he already has that, right? So make sure you label those nicely. And then because you're regularly revisiting them every summer and winter as your kid grows and needs something from their hand-me-down bins, if your youngest child's size has passed, and of course, if you're not planning on having any more kids or anything like that, donate and pass them on. Put that stuff into your too small bin or into your running decluttering or donation bin inside your house immediately. And this can be really hard to do if you've missed the opportunity for them to use them. Like I've done that before. I go in and I'm like, oh man, like he never even wore this, right? And then you're like, it's kind of weird. You know that he's not going to wear it because it's a little bit snug or too small, but then you're like, I'll deal with it later because there's this internal tension that they never wore it. And so you're just not ready to let go of it yet. I would encourage you just to recognize that it's totally normal if you miss the opportunity for your kid to wear something. That doesn't make you a bad parent, doesn't make you wasteful. It doesn't mean you're deprived your kids. It's just part of life. Kids grow so fast. So keep in mind that while it can be tempting to keep as many hand-me-downs as possible because of the cost savings involved, remember that it's ironic that the more hand-me-downs you keep, the less likely you will go through and make sure that they use them before they're too big or the kids are too big, the clothes are too small, because it's so overwhelming. Versus if you just have one little tote, it's actually really fun that way. You open it up, you see just your favorites that your older kid wore. You know that they're going to be loved. You know, it's not like you're digging through things. You're just like, here's 3 pair of jeans. How convenient. You're not like digging through this weighted mass of, of like clothing and cloth and this and that and whatever. Like it's just 3 little jeans. Oh, look at this little pile of 10 little t-shirts and these little 10 little long sleeves, and look at this one little bathing suit, right? It's easy. And so it doesn't feel as overwhelming to do it every season. And so you keep on top of it and you actually use those hand-me-downs. Okay, strategy number 5 for making sure kid clothing chaos doesn't get out of hand is to sit with your sentimentality. This is important because oftentimes I've noticed parents, and including myself in the past, say, I'm just too sentimental. And then you let that kind of define your ability to live in a less stressful home. It's kind of, you throw your hands up in the air and you're like, I'm just too sentimental of a person. Like, I just can't.
right? No, that's a limiting belief of yourself. You can be sentimental and still not have chaotic kid clothing everywhere. So sit with that sentimentality, embrace it, enjoy it, and decide to keep a few favorite items and store those really intentionally. I have no shame in saying I'm keeping my daughter's dresses, those 2 orange dresses that I talked about, right? Like, I am not the minimalist police. There is no real minimalist police out to get you, you know? Like, it is okay. But I think if you stop trying to either dismiss it and say, I'm too sentimental, I can't, or I'm so sentimental and then feel like you have to get rid of everything in order to be a good minimalist or something, like, no, sit with the sentimentality. Let your love shine and say, I'm just going to choose their absolute favorites and happily and confidently keep them in their sentimental bin. Then I think that's great. If you feel that sentimentality towards all of their clothing, take some pictures. You know, you probably already have pictures of them wearing it. I think this is an underutilized tool, but like, I make family yearbooks for my kids because I don't want pictures of them to just die in oblivion on my phone. And so I do this every year. I'm not sponsored by them. I use chat books. I've mentioned it before, but I think having those pictures in a way that like is easily accessible and honors them where they're not getting lost has allowed me to let go of certain possessions more easily because I know I have pictures of them in their family yearbook. So maybe consider that. Say, do I need to get better about printing photos or managing my photos better, which I will keep that. I'll put that episode in the show notes. Today's one of those days. I did not realize I was going to reference so many different episodes, but they all go hand in hand, right? Like, you declutter your photos, you organize them well, then you don't feel as attached to the sentimental stuff because you know you have another way of remembering that time of life in that moment. So consider that when it comes to clothing as well. And remind yourself that passing clothing on lets another family make new memories in them too. It's so fun to think about how another family loves their kids just as much as you do, and they will love seeing them in that cute Christmas dress or in those little boots or in that sweater that you love so much, or even in that just dinosaur t-shirt, right? Like, we don't have to keep all of it. We can say, this can serve another family really well. And I will always still cherish when my kid was that age. I don't need all of the clothing in order to do that. And the interesting part about this too is that part of managing your sentimental bins and sitting with your sentimentality is that whenever you add something new to your sentimental bin, use it as an opportunity to assess what's already in there. For me, I have found that I get so much less attached to the stuff I see in there each time I go back in. So when my kids were babies, I held on to a lot more of their sentimental clothing because it's so small and it's so cute. Like, oh my gosh, did they ever fit into that, right? And then I'd go put in one toddler outfit and I'd be like, why did I keep that shirt? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I guess she wore that a lot, but it didn't like spark the same joy, like the inability to let it go that it did when they were a baby. And so I would encourage you to go through and take things out that no longer feel that way. And that's okay, because I can tell you sitting here right now, my oldest is almost 8 years old and he has very few baby things left. Like, I think he has the outfit he came home from the hospital in and maybe like a little hand knit sweater, something like that. He had a lot more, but 8 years later, I don't love that version of him any less. It's not like I don't care about his baby years at all. Like, I still, my love for him remains very, very strong. And the memories I have of him at that age remain very, very strong. I don't need the clothing to do that for me. And that has just taken time. So let time do its thing with your sentimentality. Like, it is okay to go back and reassess as they get older and let go of some of the stuff from when they're younger. And that way you just keep things in that sentimental bin. You don't let it overflow by maybe taking some things out as you go too. Oh, by the way, if you're watching, I just took a sip of my water and I have a new water bottle. It is no longer my hospital cup. You guys will know I use my hospital cup from literally birthing children. But eventually the plastic gave way and it was like, it wasn't good. And so I wanted to find something that's kind of like a hospital cup, but I can still see the amount of liquid in it. That was important to me. Anyway, I found this glass one and I love it. And it's also much cuter. Anyway, thanks for indulging me as I show off my new water bottle. I don't get new things often, okay, you guys? This is very exciting for me. All right, strategy number 6 is teach your kids to participate. As kids get older, involve them in choosing what stays and what goes. It helps them in so many aspects of life with decision-making, with gratitude, and with this idea of enough. So I've said this before, but make sure you give them simple choices. Which 3 shirts do you want to keep, right? Like, hey, bud, these are a little bit small. I know it's hard to let things go, but I think we should only keep 3 of these, and I'm going to get you 3 in the next size up, or whatever it is, which are your favorites? Involve them as much as possible, especially as they get older. And they get better at knowing what they like as well, the more you do this. So it doesn't make these regular assessments so difficult every single time. I think people try and declutter with their kids one time and they're like, oh, that was miserable, it's pulling teeth, But if you're doing this regularly and talking about it and making it a normal part of your life and their life and everything, they just get better at it. Like my son, I'm telling you, that kid used to hold on to every last piece of trash and think that it was so important. He has changed his tune so much. I think I shared the story about him having a change of heart in that episode that I linked in the show notes about strategies to help kids declutter their stuff. But, I think just the repetition of doing it over and over again, they realize it's okay. You just have to get used to it. This idea of not keeping everything. And so I encourage you, it's like when they try peas for the first time, they hate them. And all the nutritionists say you have to introduce a food like 8 times before a kid, it might like it. You have to introduce decluttering to them like 8 times before it's not a pain, but it's worth it. It's so worth it because now I go in there and I'm like, hey, which of these do you like? Which do you not wear? And he's like, oh, I don't really wear these ones. It's not as comfortable about it. I'm like, oh gosh, this is so easy, So include your kids because it becomes easy. You don't have to make those decisions. They'll make them as they get better with their decluttering muscle. It also obviously helps them feel a sense of ownership. One of my favorite things too is that it's really good intentional time together because you're kind of getting to know them and why they like things, why they don't. You're doing something with your hands and you're just being there together. You're not distracted by your phone. They're not distracted by a screen. They're not running around, whatever, right? You're there together. And I think we need more activities like that just are mindful. We're just in the moment together. And decluttering is an opportunity to do that with your kids. Most of all, it just normalizes that this idea of letting go is part of life. And that is such a powerful gift to give to our children. It is not a punishment. So keep that in mind when you feel worried. Oh, am I going to deprive my kids? Are they going to be upset with me? Like, no, this is such a lovely way of parenting and helping them move through the world in a way that's going to benefit them big time down the road when they're adults and they have to decide what is worth keeping and what is worth letting go. Anyway, episode 86, strategies for getting your kids to declutter, will be in the show notes, but teaching them to participate is a really excellent strategy for keeping the chaos away. All right, last strategy is be intentional about what comes in. I promised you that we would be talking about a consumption piece, and this is it. So most of the clutter problem starts before the clothing even hits the drawers. It gets there somehow, right? Somehow we accumulate it, whether we are buying it or it's being gifted to us or whatever it is. So there are many different aspects of managing what comes in. You might need to communicate with your loved ones about what your kids actually need, especially before birthdays and holidays, if they want to give clothing, or if you have the kind of in-law, like the mother-in-law who loves to buy all the beautiful dresses. That's wonderful. We are so grateful. I want you to come back and listen to that episode that I'm going to be sharing in December about managing those kind of grandparent-in-law type relationships with gift giving. But keep in mind that you can lovingly set these boundaries and still respect the fact that that is a way of them showing love. I know it's hard not to get resentful sometimes, but we have to remember that they're doing the best they can as well. I do have a gift request template. If you're not sure how to word things in a way that won't sound offensive, I've written kind of an email style, which of course you can turn into a text or whatever you want for you to personalize, but it is the basic outline of how to graciously request certain gifts or not certain gifts, right? If your kid wants something for their birthday and you really don't want X, Y, and Z clutter. You don't want any more dresses or clothes or this or that. It's a way for you to personalize a gracious email or text to your loved ones. So I'll have that linked in the show notes as well. It's actually linked every week, but I'll have it kind of highlighted for you. That's the gift request template. So that's part of what's coming in, of managing, being intentional about what comes in. But of course, a big one for so many of us is shopping because even when I walk into Walmart, we do have a Walmart here in Kodiak, Alaska, by the way, everyone. Fun fact, if you want to go down a giggly rabbit hole, you can Google Pitbull goes to the Walmart in Alaska. Like the rap artist Pitbull? It's a very funny story that he was going to go into a Walmart to sell his merch or something. And he was going to go to the one that got the most votes. And then somebody found out that the most kind of obscure Walmart in the United States is in Kodiak, Alaska, on our very isolated island in the middle of nowhere. And so they got all these people to vote for that. And so Pitbull ended up having to fly all the way to Kodiak, Alaska. Anyway, it's very funny. The point is we have a Walmart here. And even when I walk in, I'm like, oh my gosh, look how that cute little dress, it's even worse when I used to go to Target, which I stopped doing even when I lived near Target because it was so tempting among other reasons. But like any store you go into, they can have cute fall decor or fall whatever, but kid clothing is particularly tough because man, don't our kids look so cute in their little flannels and their little tights and their little sweaters. Oh gosh, it's just so hard. So the point is that when you go to shop, ask yourself, does my child need this right now? This next question is actually my favorite. Will this feel as cute in 3 months? Because I've come to realize that it looks really cute at the moment, and then 3 months, it's not her favorite, or it's just not as cute as it looked in the store, right? Also think, will they wear this based on their usual habits? So my daughter is riding her bike to school. We ride our bikes to school every morning. It's a lovely way to start my day. But so she's wearing fewer dresses because they get caught in her wheels. And so she used to wear a dress every single day to school. She's leaning towards pants now. And so I have to stop myself and be like, that dress is really cute, but she's got plenty of fall and winter dresses. And then I have to assess, where are the gaps in her wardrobe? Does she need a pair of jeans? Which actually currently she does, because her other jeans she now wears for horseback riding. And anyways, it's a long story, right? We always have a long story by what our kids wear and what they need and blah, blah, blah. We all have our thing. The point is when you go shopping, we want to be filling in the gaps, what they actually need to wear, not just impulse buying whatever is really cute. Because yes, your kid will look really cute in all of those things, but they will also look really cute in the things you already have for them. And you don't want an overwhelming wardrobe, right? It's just not worth it. Really avoid those clearance and just in case buys. Clearance racks are great if it is filling the need. If there's a clearance rack and there's jeans in there because that is what she needs, go by all means, get the cheaper jeans. I love that. Obviously, we can shop at thrift stores. We could shop secondhand. We can look on Facebook Marketplace. This applies for anywhere that you're shopping. Don't buy things just because it's a good deal. Buy it because you actually need it and they will actually wear it, because these good deals fill up our closets. And then, like I said, you're less likely for them to actually wear them. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's true. The less we have, the more likely they are to really utilize those clothing. So for me, I look at my kids' clothes before I go to the store. I do not buy on impulse anymore, and it has changed our kids' wardrobes. It has made my life at home with clothes so much better. I can look around and be like, oh, she doesn't need a little Christmas. I would love for need and want. They're two different things. When I say need, I mean sometimes want too. Like I want her to have a cute little Christmas dress. And so I can look in her closet and be like, oh, she doesn't have that. And then I can go to the store and have so much fun buying her one of those cute little Christmas dresses. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Or looking on Facebook Marketplace and see what other cute little Christmas dress that was worn one time by a different girl last year that her mom has put up on Facebook Marketplace. It's really fun. That's fine. It doesn't mean we can't have fun thinking about how cute our kids will look, but really figure out what they need. Because I promise you, it will make your life so much happier to not have this overwhelming wardrobe because of impulse shopping. I want you to remember this as we close out here. When we simplify our kids' wardrobes, we free up time and space and mental energy for ourselves and for our kids. And we're teaching them that enough is truly enough. This week, I really encourage you to try just even one strategy, and you'll be amazed at how much your home can feel lighter. So here's a quick recap of those 7 strategies. Set up your 3 bins, 1 too small, 1 too big, 1 incoming clothes, right? So 3 bins. Strategy number 2, set a clothing limit. Number 3, assess and rotate seasonally. It's a good time of year to do that. We're getting into the cold weather. We're going to be assessing and rotating. Number 4, actively manage those hand-me-downs. Number 5, sit with your sentimentality. Number 6, teach your kids to participate. Number 7, be intentional about what comes in. So if today's episode was helpful for you, please share this with another mom friend or dad friend or whoever that you know is struggling with an overwhelming amount of kid clothing, because we are all in this together. And I cannot wait for you to come back next week. We have an episode with Courtney Flory of Declutter and Dwell, and we are going to be talking about getting to know our own personal preferences to help keep the clutter at bay. It's a really cool one. I think you're going to love her. So I will see you next week. And thanks for being here. Bye.
You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face. So thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at paring_down, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.